Hey guys, welcome back. This is Storm. In Update Aquatic, we're getting fancy new water physics, and I thought we'll take a look and see what are the key changes. Here I've got some iron bars, I've got some wall blocks, and I've got some glass panes. You can see I've got water flowing all around the blocks. Now you might be wondering what on earth is going on here, and that is because now in the game what we can do is we can place a water bucket, or basically a water source block, in the same block space as a non-full block. Now it doesn't work with every non-full block, but these are all the blocks that it currently works with. As of snapshot 18W10D, things might change in the future though. We've got the two chests, trap chest, normal chest, ender chest, the slab, fence, stairs, any trapdoor signs, the two walls, glass panes, the iron bars, and the ladders. So all these blocks can have water placed around them now. And to demonstrate how that works, the quickest and easiest way to show is just do it with a slab. So I'm just going to right click on that slab with a water bucket, and you can now see water is flowing all the way around here because this is now acting as a water source block. No different as if I just did that. So pretty interesting. Now I'm just going to put a slab into that water source block. Now you can see the water is staying there. I haven't destroyed the water, and water is now going to go all the way around it. That's pretty interesting. So that becomes pretty interesting when it comes to things like a stair or any block that's got an abnormal shape or not a uniform shape like a slab does. So here we've got the water flowing freely down into this trough area. We do have these parts of the blocks on either side that are exposed though. So this part here is exposed to this part of the block, and same on this other side. On the back of the stair it's the full block. There's no open air space on that side of the block, so we won't have any water flowing in this direction. So if I now put a block in front of here, we can see the water going to the sides. And it will just flow out because there's an exposed part of the block. That's pretty interesting. So where we can now do some pretty fancy stuff is, let's just mix in a little bit of redstone. So we've got a stair here. I've placed a water bucket into it. So let's just do this and I'll show you guys it in action. So I've just put down a stair. I'm going to right click on that stair with a water bucket. Now I'm going to push this stair using a piston. And because now we've got an exposed part of the block on this side, we can see that it's going to make the water flow outwards. So that's pretty interesting. We can do a lot of interesting contraptions with things like that. So where we've got trapdoors, this is just an example of I've got the water acting in the same place as the trapdoor. It's pretty interesting. And we can see it here with the ladders. Now, one thing that this does do is it does cause a block update. So for example, here I'll put down a slab. Now I've got a observer underneath this slab. So if I'm going to right click on this slab and place down the water, you can see that it detected that the water was placed there. So that's going to be pretty interesting. I'm sure we can do a lot of interesting things with observers and basically create some hidden, wonderful little redstone contraptions with this kind of setup. I'll do the same thing by putting the slab on top. So I'm going to do the same thing. Right click on this with a water bucket. It's detected the block update and you can't see the water. So this is a really interesting way to conceal water. Now other things you can do with chests as an example. So let's go put down this chest underneath the water. So here, you can see that both chests are placed. There's no flowing air around these anymore. They're completely submerged and they act like they would any other normal chest. So pretty interesting design, and it's also pretty interesting seeing water flow around signs. It's a unique kind of little setup, I think. Now where we can do some pretty fun, interesting things from a cosmetic perspective is where we start putting these block types into water and then placing the water buckets around them. Here we've got a nice, interesting path design, where we've just mixed in the different slabs, stairs, walls, and we can create a pretty unique kind of crossing for an area like this. I'm really happy with the way that looks. One thing I will point out is you can collect the water again once it's been placed into a non-full block. So for this slab as an example, I'm going to right click with a water bucket. You can see now I've created a water source block right here. I can collect this water again just by right mouse clicking with an empty bucket, and we get our water back. So that's pretty interesting. So you might be wondering what will happen to your existing worlds when you load them into Update Aquatic, and will you suddenly have water source blocks surrounding your submerged blocks. So I'm in 1.12 at the moment. I've got a couple of these non-full blocks loaded into this world. We've got air surrounding each of these blocks at the moment. I'm going to load this world now into 1.13, and here we are in 1.13, and you can see each of these blocks is still surrounded by air. So you shouldn't have any problems with your existing builds suddenly becoming water source blocks or surrounded directly by water. They're going to continue to be surrounded by air, and if you want them to be surrounded by water, you're just going to have to right click on them with a water bucket, and that will update the blocks. Now I'm sure there's still a few of you that are really concerned about signs and whether or not they'll continue to still block water. Don't worry, they will. So here I've got a water stream. I'm going to put down a sign and you can see that it's stopped the flow of water. You can continue to build your contraptions as you would normally. All is good. The way that you can get a water source block to act where this sign is, you have to right click on the sign. So I'm holding down shift, right click with the sign, with the water bucket, you can see it's turned into a water source block. So don't worry, your existing contraptions should still continue to work. So now we know a little bit more about how we could use the new water physics to our advantage. Why don't we apply it to crops? Because this is an interesting way that we can now start to conceal and hide and work with water differently than we had in the past. So first of all, along here, you might be thinking this is just a normal plank or a normal little path that we have between our crops here. In fact, all these blocks along here are acting as water source blocks. Now there's an easy way to show that by just using the F3. You can see now we've got a waterlogged tag that's set to true, and that is saying that this is now acting as a water source block. So I've just got a slab here on the top part of the block. I can just put down this slab again, right click on this slab. It's got water now underneath this in the open air spot underneath the slab, and it's going to act like a water source block. So pretty interesting way to hide now water in your farms. So here we've got a more visual approach to this, where we've got the fences. You do step up as you would normally when you go over a fence, but it's a nice visual way to show a bit of water and have a bit of path in between your crops. This is another example where we're using stairs in alternating directions. So I'm just placing stairs in each direction as we go along here. It creates this nice little checkered effect. This is probably one of my favorite setups. Now using the stairs again, but you start to place them in different directions and you can create this kind of little stream effect. And because the way the stairs work, the player won't fall down into the lower section where the water is. You can just run across this, just keep the same height, and it looks pretty good. I really like the way that looks. Now this is also another one of my favorites. You can see what's going on here. We've got bubbles popping on the surface here of this path. So I'm still using slabs along this setup, but what we've now got is we've got soul sand placed directly beneath this water, and we've got bubble streams flowing up. This is a new feature in 1.13, and we can see that we've got bubbles now bursting on the surface. Now because this is acting as a water source block on the top, and we can put a slab over the top of it, it's going to create this nice cool little popping effect. I think it looks good. It kind of looks like it's raining, and you can see the bubbles or the water landing on the surface of this block. Now this is just another simple way where we're using trapdoors. Just by placing the trapdoors on the top part of the block, right click with the water bucket, and we can hide the water underneath. So another interesting way to conceal water in your farms. So there you go. I wanted to show you guys these little setups, interesting little contraptions we can now do. You can work with water differently in your world, and I think we can create some pretty interesting effects. I can't wait to see what people come up with. Thanks for watching, stay awesome, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.